Good morning and welcome to Morning in the Valley, your year-round home for Missouri Valley Conference men's and women's basketball coverage. I'm Jeff Bidwell. We have a busy Monday here on April the 7th. We've got new head coaches being introduced today. The transfer portal continues to taketh, but also giveth. We'll get into all that coming up as well this morning. Two guests will join me today. I had an opportunity yesterday to catch up with Paul Oren. He covers Valparaiso athletics for theVictoryBell.com. We'll get his thoughts on Valpo hiring a new women's coach, and also Roger Powell on the men's side having to start over again after the best players in the Beacons program moving on to bigger pastures, at least for next season. We'll also talk with Luke Martin. He is the men's basketball radio voice of the Southern Illinois Salukis, and we'll get Luke's thoughts on year one of the Scott Nagy era in Carbondale. Is all attention now turning to the 2025-26 season. We'll start now with our headlines of the morning, and that begins in Des Moines, Iowa, as the Drake Bulldogs will introduce Eric Henderson this morning. 11 a.m. is finally his introductory news conference. Of course, the former head coach from South Dakota State, replacing Ben McCullum, who left Drake after one season to go on to lead the Iowa Hawkeye program. Henderson, great success at South Dakota State, and he's going to try and bring a lot of pieces apparently with him, as you would expect with him to Des Moines, especially from a coaching standpoint. Three of his assistant coaches from South Dakota State are coming to Drake with him. Billy Brown, Tramel Barnes, and Rob Klinkfuss will be joining him on staff, already in place. So, they are off and running. We saw over this weekend some player pieces from South Dakota State already making the transition to Des Moines. A high school standout 6'10" Griffin Goodberry, who had committed and signed with South Dakota State. He has flipped his commitment to the Drake Bulldogs. So one piece there for Coach Henderson. And then Owen Larson, who played last season, 6'2" guard, played at South Dakota State. He has announced his transfer to Drake. So as we talk about all the time, players commit to coaches as much as they commit to schools. So when coaches leave, if there's still some mutual interest from both sides, those players are usually going to follow the coach to their next position if possible. So 11 a.m. today, all of the festivities will kick off at Drake. They'll be, from what I read and heard from our friend Michael Admire, the men's radio voice from the Bulldogs yesterday, they will be streaming that live on their all their social channels, the YouTubes and the like. So you can watch that live at 11 a.m. This morning. The other head coaching news: Friday afternoon, Valparaiso announced the hiring of Courtney Boyd as their new head coach. She spent 8 years as a coach at the NAIA and Division II level. She won a national championship on the NAIA level, and so she will be leading the Valparaiso program, which, as we will get into with Paul Oren here in just a moment, as expected, your best player in one of the best players in program history, and Leah Ernest, has graduated, but behind her, a lot of folks hopping into the portal. So sort of a clean slate for Coach Boyd to get started with here in year number one. But she will be introduced a week from today, as we'll hear from Paul as well. So all the head coaching vacancies, if my math is correct, have now been filled. That took almost 3 weeks for Mary Evans to be replaced there at Valparaiso by Courtney Boyd. But Valpo, they've got the woman they want leading their program, and so. To flip our attention to that and to talk about Valparaiso women's basketball, to talk about the men's program as well, as Roger Powell losing Cooper Schwieger, losing All Right, losing a whole lot of folks behind him, having to sort of circle the wagons there in Valpo. Want to bring in Paul Oren, again, covers Valparaiso athletics for theVictoryBell.com. Got a chance to talk with Paul yesterday about all things Valpo basketball. And here is my conversation with Paul. Paul Oren, VictoryBell.com, as theVictoryBell.com. I don't want to leave any articles out there that are necessary. I just said the other day, I said, it's been 17 days since Valparaiso moved on from Mary Evans leading the women's program. I was like, boy, it's been quiet. Kind of feels like it's about time. And I don't know that sentence came all the way out of my mouth. And Courtney Boyd has been named the new women's head coach of the Beacon. So you got a chance to talk with her. What's the opening impression of the new leader of the program?
Yeah, very excited. I got the chance to talk to Courtney Boyd after a bit of gymnastics of trying to track her down and everything like that. Valpo will not be addressing the hire until April 14th. I want to be clear on that. Valpo is not saying anything. They're not making anyone available until April 14th. But I was able to track Courtney down on my own, and that was great. And loved having the chance to chat with her and really kind of enjoyed the process of the conversation. Learning a little bit about her. I mean, I told her I talked to her 2.5 hours after the news came out. I'd never heard of Courtney Boyd before. I told her, I've never heard of Courtney Boyd beforehand. I said, I have spent 2.5 hours learning as much about you as humanly possible. And I said, but nothing beats the conversation in person. So we had a good chat on over the phone, and then we'll talk to each other later on this month when she's made available by Valparaiso University.
Certainly, this is not an apples to apples comparison by any stretch, but Ben McCollum goes to Drake and had been a championship winning coach at the Division II level. You knew he could coach ball. It was just a matter of how's it going to work at Drake. Spoiler, it worked very, very well. Courtney Boyd, this is her first Division I job. She has won a national championship at the NAIA level, Division II in year 2 at Quincy, got him to the NCAA tournament. There is certainly some professional pedigree that she has sort of have built for herself. But, to her point to you, it's like this is a whole new world. And it didn't even sound like this was something that she was necessarily looking to do right now.
Yeah, I can't wait to talk to Laura Hosmer about this later on this month when she's made available to talk. I think it will be an interesting situation to see how this process played out, right? Like in terms of the idea of according to an article on Muddy River Sports, which is written by Matt Schuckman, who covers Quincy, he basically said that Courtney Boyd told him, I was minding my own business and I got a text message from a number I didn't know. And next thing you know, here I am. She's like, I'd be a fool not to take the call. When her and I spoke, we talked about that a little bit. Yeah, it's Division I. She told me, again, a quote I used, if at the age of 15, you would have told her she'd be a Division I basketball coach, she'd be smiling ear to ear. I think if you'd have told her earlier this week she was going to be a Division I basketball coach, she also would have been smiling ear to ear. It was definitely something that was not in the plan. But as she told me, coaches have plans, and then you blow up that plan, right, and then you go for it. And I'm looking forward to getting to know her a little bit more and seeing what kind of plan she has. Valpo's had numerous players hit the transfer portal, both before the announcement and after the announcement. And Lexi Castater left. I mean, she was kind of on her way out a little bit. She hit the portal, didn't play for the last several weeks of the season. Then the twins, Nevaeh and Sanaya Jackson, entered the portal a couple days before Courtney Boyd was hired. And then Layla Gold announced her entrance into the transfer portal the day after Courtney Boyd was hired. I'm sure that won't be the last player. It is 2025, so we'll see. I do have some rumblings. A couple players have told me or alluded to other people that they are coming back. I guess we'll see how things shake out roster-wise. One of the really interesting things is about, you brought up McCollum. McCollum brought a ready-made roster with him. Right. There's a couple of players on Quincy that came with Courtney Boyd from Clark, and I think based on the new rule or the rule about what Tyler Schmidt from Valpo, he's got an additional year. McDermott, who was at Quincy, I think would fall into that same line. Now, she went from Clark, and then she spent a year at Clark when Boyd was at Quincy, the 10 and 18 year. By my thought process, she should have an additional year.
Right.
I asked both Courtney Boyd and McDermott. I messaged McDermott and I said, hey, do you have an additional year? She's like, not that I know of. And I didn't want to be that guy that was like, maybe you should check the rules. When I speak, when Valpo's athletic director is made available to talk to the media, I will ask that question about compliance, about whether or not they've looked into this. And obviously, that's a long time from now that this press conference is going to happen. So we'll see.
Yeah, the never-ending goalpost moving of who's eligible. We thought once the COVID year sort of cycled out, you had a general clue of how long guys can play and ladies can play, and now it's like just keep appealing and you have a better than 50-50 chance and then going, yeah, just keep playing. It's fine. Who doesn't want to play college basketball till they're 30?
Hey, look, I'm 45 and I got 4 years left.
Let's get after it. When you look, 17 days is a long time in this portal world, especially in between a separation and a new hiring. Did any of the kids going into the portal surprise you at all?
No. Look, Mary Evans, who I had a great relationship with, and she's gone, and she's the coach who brought these players in. And I think the one thing that Mary was really kind of hoping for was the ability to grow with this group, right? To grow with the sophomores and obviously the season, it didn't go the way that maybe they thought it was going to go. You've got Sanaya Jackson, who tears her ACL, partially torn ACL, and they thought she was going to be able to play this year, and it just never got better. Every time she would ramp up, she would have a setback. And so they made the decision to shut her down. And then Raven Ray Redmond was the crusher to lose her to a torn Achilles, a ruptured Achilles on the final day, the final non-conference game. So here we go. We've got a group that you were hoping to build with, and all of a sudden they really didn't get to play together this year. And now the coach that brought them in was going to be gone. And so now what's that going to look like coming in? So Nevaeh Jackson had such a good breakout year. Sanaya Jackson, I wouldn't be shocked if they stayed in the Valley. I wouldn't be shocked if they ended up at another school in the Valley. I mean, obviously, Valley coaches are going to know them the best because they've seen them play. So if I'm a Valley coach, I'm probably looking after them a little bit. And then they're gone. And now Layla Gold is, she's probably saying, well, where are my friends going? Leah's gone. Katie's gone. Here come the twins are gone. What am I going to do? And again, so, and their coach is gone. So no, none of this shocks me. And you hope that they find good landing spots. You hope they find landing spots where they get to play. And you hope at the same time, some new kids come in that say, hell, this is a Division I program and a really good conference. We've got a chance to do something here.
For a program that hasn't had a winning season since 2020.
Yeah, and it's sobering. I didn't even realize this. They've had one winning season in 16 years. And I've been there day in and day out, covering most of it. And you don't really realize it at that point. I mean, making a 5-hour drive down to the conference tournament and coming back. And it's just like, man, you want to be there. You want to see the program turn around. And it's been 16 years I've had one winning season.
What are you able, and I say you as in Courtney Boyd. What is she able to sell right now? Like
the Missouri Valley Conference,
an opportunity. I mean, is that just, you've lost, on the short list of best players to ever come through the program and in Leah Ernest and you've lost some other key pieces here through the portal, through just naturally moving on, I guess, with the coaching change. But where is for a fan base, like what are you selling to them that there are, look, we're not going to win a championship next year, but brighter days are ahead that we can get the battleship sort of turned in the right direction.
I'll say this, and Jeff, I don't think this is going to come as a surprise to you, and it certainly is not a surprise to me. Women are smarter than men, right? And so they look at the bigger picture more than men do. And I think that's what you sell. You sell the idea, and this is something that Laurel Hosmer talks a lot about, that Valparaiso University is an and school. You can go be a Division I athlete and get a nursing degree. You can be a Division I athlete competing for Missouri Valley Conference championships, going to the NCAA tournament, soccer, and get your MBA, right? You can do these things. You're not just an athlete. You are a student athlete. And so I think where Valpo's had a lot of success has been the female student athletes, but student athletes in general, but particularly the women who say, look, I'm not going to come do the turnstile transfer portal thing where I'm going to a new school every year. I want to go be where my feet are. And I think that's what you sell. I think you sell hey, look, we have the opportunity to build a program here and to use college basketball and a scholarship for what it really has been used for in the past, to be a component to the education aspect of it. So I think that's where you start, and you look for players who want to embrace that. I think if you go with the quick fix, I think you're asking, Drake, look, I'll give them credit, right? It wasn't quite a quick fix because they kind of thought that guy would be there for a while, but all of a sudden now you're in that mode again. I think if you're Courtney Boyd, you come in, you look for some players that say, hey, let's build something together here. And let's hope that some of the NIL stuff doesn't matter as much.
I think your thesis on the men and the women is true, because it's just funny going through this portal season, I guess, where it's almost on the men's side, you almost coaching change or not, or just you look around the league and you almost default to that guy's leaving until I hear otherwise. And on the women's side, it's, well, they're staying until you hear otherwise.
And that's why I was kind of shocked a little bit when I did finally hear about, think about this. When Matt Loddick got let go at Valpo, and this is like years ago, this is 2 years ago, but it was a whole era ago in terms of NIL transfer. Like his best player went in the transfer port. Like the best player, I actually walked into the building with him the same time, didn't realize what was going on. He'd found out Loddick was gone and walked straight to the compliance office and put his name in the portal and ended up at Iowa. So, that's just how that happens. Now, on the women's side of it, again, as you said, 17 days ago, Mary Evans was, they mutually agreed to part ways. And, it took 2 weeks for any of the players to hit the portal. And so, I don't know if that was just a paperwork thing, if whatever the deal was, but going back to it, and again, you got to concentrate on ahead. You can't really look to the past. I think Courtney Boyd's got a great opportunity to another thing that you talk about. What can she sell? She can sell her pedigree. Right. Look, she wins. And with the exception of a 10 and 18 year, her first year at a new program, which I guess maybe you got to be ready for that at Valpo. Like the first year, it's going to take a little bit of time. I think you sell winning.
On the men's side, some stability at the head coaching position, and that's kind of about it. It feels like I don't even know that it feels like, it just kind of is. The deck being cleared off the top with a lot of good players that were certainly foundational pieces for Roger Powell that you were hoping were going to be able to stick around, and they are not. As Cooper Schwigger off to Wake Forest, and All Right is now a musketeer of Xavier. You wrote a really knife to the heart column a couple weeks ago about what has happened to the game we've loved. And it just, it becomes, man, it's just the game in so many ways now is, you more than ever, you are rooting for the uniform instead of the person in it, because you're just in 9 months, you just almost have to believe, again, default, they're going to leave. And what's the vibe right now?
First of all,
about this men's program.
First of all, you're right. To the people who are watching, go to thevictorybell.com. I wrote a piece called Who Asked for This? And it was really a look at how did we get to this point? And it's a 12-minute long read or something like that. I've gotten more traction out of that story than almost anything else I've ever written. Matter of fact, I released it on the morning the NCAA tournament started. A guy came up to me at Buffalo Wild Wings that afternoon and said, I want to buy your food for you. That you articulated what I feel about college basketball. I'm buying your food for you. I was like, man, that was chilling right there. Just
and okay. As a media member, if there's one thing we like more than anything,
free food. Yeah. I didn't even do the, no, you don't have to. I was like, hell yes, let's go. Let's go. Look, what can Roger Powell sell? Playing time. They've got 3 guys they're bringing in so far that they're excited about. a freshman that they signed during the season, JT Pettigrew, big guy from the same high school, that one of the high schools that Isaiah Stafford went to. Carter Hopwoy, a guy from New Zealand. Looks like a raw project, but someone who's got some length and has played against some grown men. Roger just went over to New Zealand to meet with his family, and said, man, the guys he's playing against, he's gonna be ready to go. And then Raheem Chaney, a freshman, incoming freshman, looks like a really nice piece as well. And this is what Chaney said is interesting. And I don't know how many times Roger gets to say this, by the way, but Chaney said, I said, what sold you on Valpo? And he goes, they got back-to-back Missouri Valley Conference Freshman of the Year. Roger looked at me and then my visit and said, you're going to be the third. Okay. Well, now how many guys does he get to say that to on a recruiting visit? Right. Like, I mean, I would say it to all of them. Right. And you'll have the opportunity to be the third. And of course, like you gotta say that. And so, I think it's interesting where we're at right now, because it's like I just did last week, Jeff. I do fantasy baseball, and we do an auction, and you can either buy the stars at the beginning where you're bidding up, or you can say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to wait for the prices to drop, and then I'm going to build, a more sustainable roster. Maybe I don't have 3 superstars, but I have 6 tier 3 guys or something like that.
Right.
I will say this: the Valpo fans are not just Valpo fans, college basketball fans in general, and even reporters. We're all learning right now. I had one guy come up to me and say, Valpo's got to go after the 6th man in the Big Ten. Like, that's the guy they got to get. These guys want playing time more than they want money. This is what they got to do. And I'm like, the 6th man is making $500,000. Like, you got to go for the 13th man at the Big Ten. Like, that's what, and even those guys are making an incredible amount of money. And I don't know if you don't have the NIL in place. Kudos to Illinois State for doing what, I mean, like the Chicago Bears do every year. See the Packer stuff. Like the Chicago Bears do every year. Illinois State's won the offseason. We'll see if it actually matters.
Yeah, what they have done has been, retention is remarkable, and to your point, we'll see what that does. But I'm a firm believer in continuity is king, and boy oh boy, through the first 3 weeks here of the offseason, Ryan Piedenspunch has done a great job. I want to show you a picture that you took a couple weeks ago with Coach Powell at a local restaurant. The Rev doing his thing. What happened in this stump speech that he gave there, looking like he's getting ready for the Iowa caucuses? But what was the message, and how was it received there from the Valpo faithful?
Well, this was amazing, by the way, and I give a ton of credit to Roger Powell here. Well, first of all, I give a ton of credit to a Valpo fan, 81 years old last week, Bev Cavender, who's been around forever. She is the one who got this together. This was organic. This was grassroots. He's not even wearing Valpo gear in the picture, right? This was Bev reaching out and saying, we got to do a State of the Union. This is at a place called, believe it or not, it's called the Viking Chili Bowl. All right. So Valparaiso Vikings, that's the high school in town, Viking Chili Bowl. And this is in the back room. There was, in addition to what we see here, behind the guy in the yellow sweatshirt was me, but behind that was a whole biker gang, basically. Harley Davidson riders were there, and so they're Valpo fans now too. And so but there were probably about 85, 90 people packed into this room, and this was just Roger explaining, look, this is the world we live in today. It is the world we're at now. This is where college basketball is. And he goes, look, we took guys who didn't have offers from anybody else. And again, the narrative is that All Right didn't have any offers. All Right had offers from other people. He just picked Valpo. But Cooper didn't have offers from anybody else. And what happened? Roger poured into him for 2 years. He became an all-conference player, freshman of the year, all that. And Roger basically said in this thing, look, we're going to do it again. And the Valpo fans that were there, I think it was a little bit of lamenting of like, we wish things were the way they used to be, but they're not. And so you can be angry about it, or as Billy Bean says in Moneyball, adapt or die,
Yeah.
and you have to, and that's where Valpo's got to be right now.
As everyone has tried to adapt in this new the phrase that I feel like all of us wanted to push aside a couple of years ago, the new normal here in college basketball.
Just give me precedented times. I don't want unprecedented times anymore. I'm sick of we just hit a Bo Nix auto in the break we're in right now. Let's go. On card Bo Nix auto.
Big day.
For the sorry about the interruption. I told you this might happen.
Yes. Well, good. I'm glad that the waiting paid off.
Okay.
Good. Steve Prohm said something a year ago when talking about NIL, and you're worried about guys leaving and so on. And he said that the one thing about is if guys are taken from us, basically, is that means we had a good year. And it's just, and he goes, it's almost just kind of, it's the price of doing business now. Of you are hoping you are a good enough program and you are a good enough team that Toy Story mode, the claw comes down and takes your best players out and goes, in that you have done something. Now you just have to know that the eras of we have 3 and 4 years with these guys to build them up and really let's get this thing. That window has now shrunk to maybe 1 or 2 years. And probably in the end you look back and maybe I don't know what the real emotion is, but thankful you got 2 years out of Cooper Schwieger. When I remember a year ago, you were just like, everybody's holding their breath at the end of the freshman of the year campaign that he's gone. But it just, if you guys get beat on Thursday this year, if Valpo gets beat on Thursday and Cooper Schwieger and Allright leave, there's almost kind of a resignation of like, I get it, you got to go, but making it to Saturday, the kick in the gut's just a little more swift.
Well, and this is the tough part. Like, this is the really, like, I've gone back and forth about this. First of all, there isn't obviously at this level now, we're looking at seeing like what are guys that are making good tourney runs, are they making money, blah blah blah. Allright probably tripled his NIL valuation with the Missouri Valley Conference tournament. Give him credit for that.
Yes,
the guy was
100%.
outstanding. Jaden Daniels' autograph just hit. This is big. If you're a degenerate like I am, you're multitasking here.
I feel like we need a third screen here.
We do. Yeah. No.
More impressive than you and I.
Drake May, Bo Nix, and Jaden Daniels' autographs have all hit in this one. Yeah, it's crazy. All right, focus. This is how we pay the salaries over here, by the way. So if you're looking at what these guys did in the conference tournament, they did what you thought they could do all year. Jeff, this is the really hard part for me, though. Like, Valpo fans are crushed because these guys are leaving. They finished in 11th place.
Right.
Like, this is the tough part. Like I thought watching All was so fun. Watching Cooper was so fun. All these other guys, and it was fun too. They're good guys. They finished in 11th place. What are we doing here? Right. They literally could not finish lower next year. Like anything, this team could finish in 10th place and it would be an improvement. So there's a part of me that's like, man, you missed what happened, but like they can't get any worse than what they were. And so that's hard for me. That's hard to grasp because that was not an 11th place team we watched in St. Louis. And that team, 2 minutes left to go in the game, we're right there with Bradley. And if Darius Diavero doesn't, dislocate his knee committing a foul, I think that game, I don't know which foul call was worse, the one on Cooper Flag on Saturday or the one against Darius. I'm not sure. I don't know. So you got to say, look, Valpo did their job by Cooper and by All. They got those guys prepared. Tyler Schmidt's going to go to Towson. He's a little bit of a different story because he kind of stopped in for a little bit, and I'm excited for him. Good guy. The other guys, I don't know where they're going.
Yeah.
Where Isaiah Stafford going to go, I have no idea. Where's Jefferson De La Cruz Monegro going to go? I have no idea. And so I'm looking forward to seeing where these guys land. And I hope that they do well. Are they going to get more playing time than they got at Valpo? I don't know. Are they going to get more money? Probably. But, what are we doing here? I don't know. It's a tough situation.
Roger Powell was very gracious in saying goodbye. You don't see that. I've seen that now twice, maybe ever in the last week. I've seen Rochelle Turner at Murray State, like this effusive praise of kids going into the portal. Thank you for being a part of our championship team, and we wish you all the best of luck in the future. And Roger Powell, all but just like, guys, thank you, good luck. And it's so, the old journalism lesson of dog bites man. It's not a story. Man bites dog. Now you've got a story, and it's like that's kind of a man bite dog situation. How is he sort of handling the reboot, another reboot here in trying to start over?
Man, it's tough. I feel for the guy because I know what he wanted to be building toward for a third year. Yeah. I know what he was looking for. And he had everything in place for the third year. You got Cooper Schwieger coming back. You got Allright coming back. You've got Isaiah Stafford coming back from injury. You got a glue guy in De La Cruz Monegro. You've got a guy who's been in the program for a couple of years in Kaspar Sepp. You've got the grandson of Homer Drew, who could be, I thought was going to be a star at Valpo this year, and it just didn't ever really work out in Isaiah Shaw. And then you add in JT Pettigrew, who I think is going to be a really good piece. I think this is a team that, despite the fact they finished in 11th, you put Isaiah Stafford in with this group and you get these guys another year older, I think you're in great shape. And all of a sudden, you got to go back to the drawing board. I told him the morning after they lost to Bradley, where I was staying was right next to the team hotel. So I popped in there, mostly because the Starbucks was right there. And I popped in there and I saw him. He was in their team room area, and it was just him. And he was just kind of sitting there. And I walked in and we talked for 45 minutes. And, I said, I'm sure some of these guys are going to go. And he was trying to be ever optimistic.
Right.
Give him credit for that. Trying to be ever optimistic. And I said, look, you coached at Gonzaga. You were there when Chet Holmgren went into the league. You just have to look at it as that. Now, what's tough is that Valpo will ultimately be competing for the same championship that Xavier and Wake Forest are competing for. But you just have to look at it as you did your job. At the end of the day, Jeff, and this is, I think, probably something that I think about a little bit because of my main job of being an educator, is we are educators. If as coaches are educators, your job is to get these people prepared for the next stage of their life. If that means another college, so be it. But you've prepared them for the next stage. So going back to the question you asked about Courtney, what does she have to sell? Thinking about what Roger has to sell, he's going to pour into these guys. And I think that's the only approach that he can take is okay, we got to do it again. And maybe they got to go back to the drawing board, but now they're going back to a drawing board with 2 years of coaching experience for Roger as head coaching experience and hey, look, you come to Valpo, you're going to play like Cooper Schwieger did. Not you're going to play like Chet Holmgren did or you're going to play like Jalen Suggs did. You're going to play like Cooper Schwieger did or like Allright did. Come do this here because it can be done.
He's Paul Oren. He is thevictorybell.com.
And he is cheering for the Florida Gators, probably for educational and entertainment purposes only.
Of course.
But I might have, the Victory Bell on Instagram, I put up all of my brackets. I nailed Illinois State in the CBI.
Homer.
Obviously. And I tried to have Bradley in the NIT. They didn't do their job. But I've got Florida winning. I got Florida beating Duke, but that referee that called the foul on Cooper Flagg did not have Duke in the title game. So
I'd already gone to bed because it was a late. The game was dragging on, and I missed some of the drama. But when I saw the live stats of a foul with 4 seconds left, I was like, "Oh, that's terrible." And then when I saw the video, I was like, "Oh, that's terrible."
It was awful.
It didn't get better. So
great game though. 2 great games. The women's championship today was. While it wasn't a great game, watching Sue Bird and Diana Taurasi was amazing. And they had Caitlin Clark on there, which was fun because Caitlin Clark and Diana Taurasi have a good little
back and forth.
Yeah.
We'll call it that. What can we expect at basketball related at the victorybell.com?
I'm looking forward to about a week or so from now, getting a chance to meet Courtney Boyd in person and sit down and chat with her. And then And then, we've got the softball team just took a series from Bradley, and they're rolling right now. And I've been so locked into basketball that I haven't really settled on them a little bit. But and then spring football practice is kind of the looming cloud right here. And so I've sat down with the new football coach, and I just got to write the story. I just haven't done it yet. And so we got to get to that.
Well, I'll let you get to that. Paul, thank you so much for the time. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.
So there was Paul Oren, and it's a good day for him, getting some Bo Nix autographs. It's a lucrative afternoon for Paul. So again, a week from today, Courtney Boyd will be officially introduced as Valpo's women's head coach. Again, just joining us 11 a.m. today. Drake's Eric Henderson will be officially introduced as the Bulldogs' new men's basketball coach in Des Moines. That will be streamed live on all of Drake's social channels today. Some other coaching news to pass along from over the weekend. Bradley associate head coach Jimmy Foster, been with Brian Wardle for years, really helped get that program up into the top tier of the Missouri Valley. But Jimmy Foster leaving Bradley, he's heading to join Colorado State staff. Of course, Colorado State now led by Missouri Valley legend Ali Faroukmanesh, of course, the star from the 2010 NCAA tournament with Northern Iowa. But Jimmy Foster coached Faroukmanesh at Kirkwood Community College once upon a time, and so now that relationship coming full circle as Jimmy Foster will be on Faroukmanesh's staff there at Colorado State. Some portal news to pass along from the men's side at Murray, and both of these are Murray State related. Alden Applewhite, who was probably, I guess he was sixth or seventh man for Murray State last year. Really the first guard generally off the bench. He has gone into the portal, averaged about 6 points a game last year, and shot 38% from three. And so just that number, if nothing else, a 38% three-point shooter last season, really improved from the year before. He will be valuable to somebody out on the open market, one would have to imagine. But he was one of the potential holdovers on Ryan Miller's new roster there at Murray State. But ultimately, Applewhite is moving on into the portal. On the women's side, Murray State getting a big commitment yesterday from Charnice Curry-Jelks, who spent the last 2 years at Indiana. In 2022-23, her freshman year, she was the Ohio Valley Conference Freshman of the Year at UT Martin, 15.7 rebounds a game that year, first team All-Ohio Valley Conference. She moves on to Indiana, plays 2 years, doesn't play much. She played a total of 9 games over 2 years for 19 minutes. She had a child over that time in Indiana, which certainly led to some of her limited playing time. But Charnice Curry-Jelks coming to Murray State, 6'2", and is going to provide some good size to help fill in the void left by Murray State great Caitlin Young graduating, Ava Learn also gone. A kid that averaged almost 10 rebounds a game. So the guard play is solidified in Murray, Kentucky. On the women's side, they need some size, and Charnice Curry-Jelks certainly fits that mold. More news out of Illinois State in terms of retention from the men's side, as Bowden Schoonberg, hope I have that pronounced right, Bowden Schoonberg announcing he will be back for a second year at Illinois State, but the first year that he will play. Spent the first 4 years of his career at North Dakota State. His junior year, averaged 19 a game, shot almost 40% from three. His fourth year, I'd call it a senior year, his first senior year, sounds like my collegiate career. His first senior year, averaged 16 and a half, shot 34% from three. But Schoonberg got hurt before last season, never played a second. So he is back as well, 6'5" guard. And it's just adding to the retention that Ryan Peden is just stockpiling guys from last season coming back. Chase Walker, Johnny Kinzinger, Jack Doherty, the list goes on. And now you get a guy that, sort of a bonus that maybe you didn't expect. Who knew if he was coming back, but a guy that You had around for a year that has been a capable scorer at the mid-major level and certainly brings a little more firepower to that Illinois State offense. And when you just look at from the size in general, that now again can't play them all at the same time, and what their overall effectiveness, we can certainly argue at points, but Ryan Peden has some size to go to. Schoenberg, 6'5" guard, that's some size on the wing. But you just look in the middle, you've got a Chase Walker who is 6'9". You've got a Cameron Barnes coming back at 6'9". Brandon Lieb coming back 7'1". Jack Doherty, a wing, but he's at 6'8". There is a lot of big-time length on this Illinois State roster next year that Ryan Peden will have an opportunity to use. Time now to bring in Luke Martin, the radio voice of the Southern Illinois Salukis. Again, Scott Nagy's first season. The Salukis finish in 8th place. I believe it was finished in the 8-9 game there with Indiana State in St. Louis. Won that game at the buzzer, and then made it to the quarterfinals where they fell to Duke. But just a challenging season at times, certainly a challenging start for SIU. They kind of got their legs under them in January into February, and things got rolling a little bit for the Salukis. But like a lot of programs, they have lost some major pieces to the portal, and so in a lot of ways, year 2 is almost year 1 all over again for Scott Nagy. So to talk about year number 1, looking ahead to year number 2 in Salukiville for Coach Nagy and the Southern Illinois Salukis, let's bring in the radio voice of the Dogs. Here is my conversation from yesterday with Luke Martin. Well, Luke Martin, last time we left our hero, it was in St. Louis, first weekend of March, as the Salukis season came to a close against the eventual Missouri Valley Conference tournament champion Drake Bulldogs. It feels like, at least for me, it's a 4-month sprint of just from November to when you just feel like you slam into a wall when the season's over. And then, hey, you get spring football and you got baseball and everything else going on. So was your vacation sort of measured in hours or minutes when basketball season ended?
Well, to think that Sunday of Arch Madness Championship Day that I was at Itchy Jones Stadium calling the Salukis against the Knights of Bellarmine, not very long, but it's good. You know what it's like, jumping right into just more to do. But the spring is not as crazy and insane as once August rolls around. And then, of course, once you get into the overlap of football, basketball, which is a fun part of the year. But it's always, whenever it comes to an end, brother, it's a bitter pill to swallow, because you just enjoy, being able to see guys like yourself. And, Arch Madness is just such a great event. It's fun to be there, and it stinks when you can't continue to play through it throughout the whole weekend, but still doesn't take away from what is an awesome time just being around everybody in the league.
So we'll get into some nitty gritty in a moment, but I guess just the 30,000 foot view from the season that was in Carbondale: 14-19 overall, 8-12 in the Valley. Started 0-5, rallied back. You've got a new head coach in Scott Nagy, had 10 newcomers. One of your best players tears his ACL 5 games into the year, and Elijah Elliott. Just how do you, I don't know if grade's the right word, but how do you grade sort of year 1 of the Scott Nagy era?
I think it always depends on your perspective a bit, Jeff, and it's not to necessarily say it's a cop-out. It's just, I think, reality. As you mentioned, you highlight a lot of those things very well. That, look, Southern had its own adversity. No doubt the injury to Elijah Elliott early shook the team. They had a really tough start to their league schedule, too. It wasn't like they were playing a weak part of their league schedule when they were 0-5. But as I've said to you and in our past podcast and conversations that we've had, the 0-4 part of the 0-5, the first 4 of those 5 games were really, really ugly. The Belmont loss in the 5th game, even though it was still a loss, that at least had a little bit of perspective, like, all right, Luke, probably shouldn't look up what are the worst records in program history in the Valley. May put that on hold for a little bit, because it was. I mean, look, the fewest deficit or the largest deficit that makes sense was Evansville, led by 21 points on New Year's Day. Every of those 4 games to start league play were by at least 21 points or more in terms of a deficit at some point in time in those games. And then you look at it, and Southern had a really good stretch in that season where they welcomed in Northern Iowa right before the Racers came in to Banterra for one of 2 trips this year.
Right.
And I mean, just smoked Northern Iowa. It was not a competitive game. And that's when you're like, all right, you dug yourself a big hole now, but maybe there's a chance and a pathway to at least finish out of the 12 teams in the league. Maybe you can finish in the top 6. That, of course, didn't happen. It was just a season that had its moments where you think it's going to turn. It never really did, but they did go further than they did a year ago. They were still on Thursday in St. Louis last year, lost in the 6-11 game to UIC, and, you know, all the theatrics that happened after that. And then you come back this year, you're in a very good game with Indiana State, a game that kind of went back and forth. You're able to win it, and then you gave Drake as much as you could on Friday. So, but it's nowhere near the standards that you and Jeff and I both know. I mean, you've covered Saluki basketball for a long time and been around it. It's not where the fans want it. So I think even giving whatever a passing grade would not be correct because it wasn't. It wasn't anywhere near the expectations. And it was a year that on paper, you know, finishing below where you did a year ago in terms of the league standings, all those things on paper looks like you took a step back. So that was a disappointment, no doubt. But there are areas where you would hope that you could build towards a positive future and have some pieces come back. And that's where we get in the midst of this conversation right now of, you know, there's only, I would say, 3 Salukis at this point that I know, at least I know for certain, are for sure coming back. And those 3 are the 2 that have announced publicly in Rollins, Aligbe, and Drew Steffi. Those are the only 2 publicly, I guess I should say, that have announced. The third would be Jaheim Weber, who I've been told who redshirted this past year wants to come back. Everybody else is either yet to confirm or say for 100% certainty that they are coming back. So it's hard to even say, well, you'd love to have some building blocks to go off of this year because we don't even know how many building blocks there will be.
Yeah, it's a weird time in college basketball where you almost – the default is to assume guys are leaving. And so, you know, it seems odd for kids to have to make some sort of proclamation that I'm coming back. But until you hear it, you're still like, are we sure? Because the portal's been open a couple of weeks and you still have guys that are just now getting into it. It's not totally that mad dash. We'll get into those dudes coming up in a minute. Scott Nagy, and this is probably a better question for Scott Nagy, but for you to read his mind a little bit. Did this year go as he thought it would go? Did he expect more this season?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think every coach in a way is wired to expect more. And yeah. I don't think Coach Nagy would feel, like disrespectful if I shared this at all. But there were many conversations that he would even have with us on the air. So, I mean, they're on the record where he'd be like, hey, we've started 0-2 and come back to win the league before. I told our guys, I think we have a roster that can compete for a league championship. That clearly didn't happen, Jeff. And I think even though the Elijah Elliott injury was a big one, I still think there was probably more within the team or a belief within the team that there could be more of a competitive fire advantage. And if you take away, and look, if you only take away the first 5 games, I get that. I wish everybody could take away their 5 worst games. But Southern was no doubt a much different team the last 15 games of the year than they were those first 5 games in league play. But I think no question that Coach Nagy would say, I expected more in year number 1. And he would say multiple times, I wish the fans at times that would come up to me and be like, hey, we support you, that they would be like, hey, we demand a little bit more from you, which there's no question a good chunk of this fan base that does demand more. So, I think to answer your question fully and honestly, I think there would no doubt be a look in the mirror of we didn't do a good job. And when I say we as a program, not just one individual, but didn't do a good enough job of getting the right pieces together to be able to do what we know the expectation is, which is to compete and win in the Missouri Valley Conference. And when you fall well short of that, football this year, just an example for Southern, I mean, they had to get a GA from their staff to come play quarterback. I mean, they had so many injuries. Elijah was a big one, but that was just one. Southern was really healthy in the rest of the team. So as much as that hurt, and no question it did, it probably shouldn't have impacted Southern as much as it did with the roster that they had.
When you look at, you've got a couple all-league guys maybe could have had a third all-league guy with Elijah Elliott, depending as well as he played in that first, literally 2 weeks of the season before he got hurt. Ali Deba, Connor Davis, now El gone into the portal. In your heart of hearts, which one of those surprised you the most when you saw the news?
Really, to be honest with you, I don't think any of them surprised me.
Really?
To really answer it on the one that I would say most would be Ali Deba still needs a waiver, so he has to get cleared for another year of eligibility. He technically, as of today, as we talk, does not have eligibility. So part of this, I guess, navigating the waters here for Ali is depending where he goes, which I do think there is an opportunity for him to still come back. I do think out of those three, I think I wouldn't be shocked if one of them came back.
Okay.
I would probably, and this is purely me. This is not inside intel or any of that. This is just from what I have gathered. The risk more for Ali is, okay, if you're another school, well, there's no guarantee he's going to get that waiver. Now, everybody feels confident that he's going to get the waiver, but are you going to be a new school that's going to put in that time, put in that effort to get the waiver and then it not come through? Yeah. And all of a sudden you're really in a tough spot. So Ollie's in the most unique spot of them all in terms of he still has to get cleared for yet that other year. Obviously, Kennard and Elijah with his injury early on in the year. Kennard, a phenomenal year in terms of number-wise and no doubt made a huge jump to where I'm sure there will be a program that would value him. It's just whether that value meets where he wants it. And is that connection going to be there? So none of them were surprising. It was none of those where, as you know, Jeff, we get our phones and all of a sudden when it comes official and it comes through, like there are some that are like, whoa, that may be a little bit of a surprise. But at least for us, I feel like internally, none of them were earth-shattering. Just Ollie's would have been the most close to that because of the unique situation he's in.
So for what we know, and as I was going through this morning and looking at, I've got back exclamation points and back question marks. So, I mean, there are some back question marks and the Damian Mayos and Davion Sykes and Antoine Massey, Jorge Morenos that are, in the end, they were respectfully bit players for what Scott Nagy was putting out there last year. I mean, when you lose 47 points a game from those top three, those are obviously significant losses. So you have Drew Steffi coming back, who really grew into a really nice piece, an accompanying piece where I think you see, okay, this kid, he averaged, 7 points a game last year. You could see him getting to a dozen and beyond, especially if he gets on one of his heaters. And then Rollins Aligbe, just sort of a raw, but just good gracious, you got a 6'9" dude down there that you can kind of build around. That's nice. I see from a high school standpoint, you've got a 6'2" guard and Luke Walsh coming in, a 6'9" wing. Daniel, I'm going to need some help on this one. Polykonis, is that be close?
Yes, pretty close.
All right. What is it? Help me.
Well, at least what that's what has been told to me, the pronunciation. I've actually yet to ask him myself, but
fair
yes.
Enough. We'll have the spelling bee on that later on. So I mean, really, it's you've got two young guys and then two freshmen coming in. Oh my goodness, from a portal standpoint now, and everything that Scott Nagy and staff have to go into now, and an NIL infrastructure, and which everybody is trying to just get better than you were last year as we move forward. Where is your confidence from an infrastructure standpoint that Scott Nagy is going to be able to go get some hitters to be able to help this Saluki bunch, which you need some dudes right now.
Yeah, need some dudes. And look, I mean, even last year you needed some dudes because when you lost a guy like Xavier Johnson, who was the only player that averaged double figures for Southern the year prior to last year, you knew that where's it going to come from? That was one of the major topics of conversation that we had a summer ago, Jeff, of, hey, where's the offense going to come from? Because Xavier Johnson was virtually everything for Southern Illinois the year prior. I think there is a lot of confidence internally that the infrastructure and the support that is there, I don't think that's in question for SIU, that there is support and there is structure there to support. What I have always kind of looked at, to me, where I believe where Coach Nagy and his staff and what they're going to do now is a lot of what during my time around Josh Schertz, and what impressed me about what Coach Schertz did was, yes, I mean, you can obviously tell Ryan Conwell, tremendous talent, bringing in guys like Isaiah Swope and then mixing it in with Julian Larry and Jason Kent and Xavier Bledson and seeing how good that team was because I was around them. But it wasn't just those guys had tremendous skill. They did, Jeff, and no one's going to debate that. Ask Louisville and their asking price, I'm sure, for Ryan Conwell for this year. But they molded so well. They were a tremendous team. They loved one another. It was one of the rarest things that you could find out of a group that was somewhat put together by the portal. And what you have to do a great job of, which is what and why I admire Josh Schertz so much, is that guy no doubt has an eye for talent, but he also has a feel for how is this individual going to mix with this group? How are they going to be as a unit? And we talk so much about continuity in the league. I heard you talk about that the other day with Michael Admire. And look, that no doubt is important. You have to have continuity in some sort of shared experiences to at least be in a better spot, which is right now, no question, Illinois State is out and running 100%. Past everybody right now in that regard. But still, though, you can add pieces and extremely good talent to what can be a really good system and a good team. And I think that's the challenge for when you're in a spot like Southern is right now, where, okay, no doubt you got to find confidence. You can go out and get dudes, like as you had described. Go out and get guys who can fit. But it's not just going out and getting guys who are extremely talented. You have to make sure that whatever your culture belief is, which after 1 year, I think Coach Nagy, Coach Hawk, his staff, they all feel like their culture has been set. Now you know what it's set. Where a year ago it was Coach Hawk didn't really know Coach Nagy, Coach Mayman, Coach Beasley, Coach Reddick, Gibbs, everybody in the building, Coach Inslee, everybody did not know what to expect. Now there's a little bit more of, hey, we know what the daily expectation is. Now you have to do a better job. I think everybody agrees. It's got to be a better job, Jeff. You have to do a better job of filling out that roster with those pieces and see how they come together.
You mentioned Steve Hawkins, who was promoted to associate head coach on March 31st. What, if memory serves from sort of the season that was, he was sort of handed the defensive reins at some point during the year. What, as you said, no real relationship with Scott Nagy prior to coming. What did you see out of Steve Hawkins and his involvement's not really the right word, but maybe impact on the program last year that earned him this promotion and will continue to play a big role here for Coach Nagy?
His impact was so invaluable in so many ways. He can relate to players very well. He can relate to just anybody in general, Jeff. He can just sit down, have a conversation, really be more of that outgoing personality, where I don't think it's any secret Coach Nagy's personality is not extremely outgoing. He's not going to be someone that's necessarily going to talk your ear off or be willing to have he can have deep conversations. It's just he's more about action. Sure. And I think that's where Coach Hawk is a really good right hand for Scott Nagy. Is Coach Hawk has tremendous personality, and his basketball experience from, his stories of driving around John Wooden, early in his days are unbelievable. And the stuff that he learned from just the different interviews and stuff that he would hear Coach Wooden talk about, and having those experiences to relate, and then just being in that head coach chair for so long, like he was, his connection, of course, he coached Drew Steffi's dad, Matt, at Quincy back in the day. That's kind of the connection with the Steffi family to Coach Hawk and what originally got them here. So there's that connection within the program. Hawk just is a tremendous human being and has just unbelievable knowledge in terms of the game of basketball. And as you alluded to, he got the defensive coordinator reins right around that fifth game in Valley play. And Southern's numbers were not just bad defensively. They were the worst in the country statistically. And for him to flip it And it's not just him. It's just getting that buy-in collectively from everybody, and also to have a head coach who was willing to let his assistant have a strong voice. And know it wasn't working. Coach Nagy deserves a ton of credit for that too, because he did not continue to be like, no, I'm the head coach. I got to come up with all the answers. He really leaned on Steve Hawkins, and I think that showed why Southern at least was able to be way more competitive in the later stages of the season than they were obviously early.
Just looking ahead, and this isn't meant to be a pop quiz, but just in terms of non-conference games for next year, any on the off the top of your head that the Dogs have at least penciled in right now for next year?
The only ones that I know for certain are, I believe, the North Dakota State contract was 2 home games for 1, so I believe they are going to Fargo this year. I know High Point was a home and home, so they will go to High Point this later year, which High Point, of course, got to the NCAA tournament, and Coach Huss has done a great job there with that program. Those are the only 2 I know for like 100% certainty that are on the schedule. The rest of it, MTEs, all of that is still to be figured out.
He is Luke Martin. He is the Southern Illinois men's basketball radio voice, and football and baseball and whatever else he gets dragged into on any given day. My man, I appreciate the time as always, and I know we'll catch up soon.
Absolutely, Jeff. Appreciate it, brother.
So there was Luke Martin. As I know a lot of folks in Carbondale hoping for a leap in year 2 under Scott Nagy, but again, so much rebuilding to do, in the portal, like so many schools at our level, and we'll be interested to see how they are able to accumulate talent here in the coming weeks. Before we get out, one more piece of portal news. Belmont, Casey Alexander, head coach, has got some rebuilding to do as well, as he's lost some all-league guys, Carter Witt and Jonathan Pierre. He has gotten a commitment from a 6'2 guard from Springfield, Tennessee, just up the road from Nashville, named Isaiah West. Started his career at Vanderbilt, played 1 year there, then went to Samford, and now coming back a little bit closer to home to Belmont. So the last time that Belmont got a transfer from Vanderbilt worked out all right for them. Malik Dia, who, of course, had one monster year with Belmont before moving on to Ole Miss. So we will keep an eye on Mr. West to see what kind of impact he has for the Bruins. Again, today, 11 a.m., just a couple hours from now here, it'll be Eric Henderson being introduced as Drake's new men's basketball coach officially for the Bulldogs. We will have coverage of that coming up on Wednesday here on Morning in the Valley. Again, we'll be here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 a.m. With coaches, players, media from around this great conference. Plenty to talk about throughout the spring and summer months as we get ready for the 2025-26 season on both the men's and women's side. So thank you for being with us today here on Morning in the Valley, and we will see you coming up Wednesday right here. Have a great day.